What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Nate here from Out of the Basement, bringing you a brand new action figure review for an entire wave of figures. Today we are looking at wave 1 of the archive wave from Star Wars The Black Series. This is X-Wing pilot Luke, IG-88, Bossk, and Boba Fett. Of course, these are figures that have already been released. That is the point of the archive wave. However, some of them do have updates to them. And we're doing things a little bit different today. I ran a poll on our YouTube channel asking if you guys wanted one big video or individual videos. Majority voted one big video, so here we are. I will be comparing a couple of these figures. Thanks to Justin, I will be able to show a comparison between IG-88 and Bossk. And I do have a Chinese bootleg Boba Fett that I will definitely be showing next to Boba Fett and prototype Boba Fett. But unfortunately, I don't have a X-Wing pilot Luke to compare Luke to. So without further ado, we are going to start with Luke. Just because, like I said, I don't have anything to compare him to, so we can just get him out of the way relatively quickly. And moving in here, you can see the blister card packaging of the archive figures, so it's definitely different from the standard release, so those collectors that have those can feel like, you know, they still have something. But very happy Hasbro decided to release these figures because the eBay prices for the originals were insane. So you got a nice image here of Luke, and then right here you can see the actual original look of the figure, what year it came out in, and what line it was in. Of course, this is the first Black Series figure. And then there is his bio. You can pause it right there if you would like to read that. And then, yeah, right there also has a nice little image of Luke. So let's go ahead and get him open. And of course, we're going to take a look at his accessories. Here is his first one, which is his X-Wing pilot helmet, which looks really good. Really enjoy the details, the nice paint apps on the helmet itself. It's got like a dirty look to it, so it looks like, you know, he's been through some stuff. The paint decals, like of the Rebel symbol and all of these lines, appear to be very clean, so that is awesome. You can see here on the ridge, this line is a little wonky. It's a little wonky right there, but that's not a big deal. The fins on top also look very clean. Really like the way this turned out. This actually has a lot of really nice clean paintwork on it for once, coming from Hasbro, so thankfully they cared enough to do that. And here is his blaster as well, which is actually painted. It's got the nice little silver handle, and it does have a little bit of brown paint on the handle as well. So props to Hasbro taking the time, taking the little extra effort to paint the weapons this time around. And then of course, Luke/Rey's lightsaber right here, standard affair. We've seen this a billion times. Of course, it looks good. The blue on the lightsaber, I think, also looks pretty good. So overall, the accessories are pretty good. Taking a look at Luke right here, you can see the face printing technology really looks awesome. I think it looks much better in person, and obviously when you get him super close up to the camera, you can start to see the dots from the face printing, but still not quite 100% Mark Hamill, but this is a massive improvement. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I don't know, maybe if we can get a Return of the Jedi Luke, it'll have even more improvements on this. Still do, though, enjoy the face printing on this figure. I don't think it's bad at all. The hair also has some shading in it, so it's got brown and blonde bits of hair really sprinkled in there to add that nice extra dimension of detail. And you can see on his chest piece right there as well, super clean paint apps. Not a whole lot to complain about. I'm really impressed by how clean this is. And on the arms here, you can see there's like a dirty wash applied to the orange, so it looks dirty. It looks like he's been fighting, and that is really great details. For this being, like I said, I don't have one to compare it to, but they didn't change much on any of these figures, so I'd have to imagine the first release also has this same amount of detail on it. So that's awesome for the very first Black Series figure, and then we all know how that went. But this figure, again, it continues down into the pants, and you can see all the pouches and wrinkles there are nice and sculpted. The details on this guy are really good. In terms of articulation, Luke can look up really far, and he can look down pretty far as well. He does have side-to-side head tilt there, and his arms do move all the way out, of course. Swivel around. Single jointed elbow. That gives you pretty much exactly 90 degrees right there. Swivel at the elbow as well. The wrist swivels, and of course does have a little pivot there. Just had to work that in. He does have some waist movement there, so you do have the bit of upper chest, not quite ab crunch. He can look down not very far, but he can look up pretty far. And he can kick forward, but you gotta push those rope thingies past. I don't know what those are called. And he does have double jointed elbows that work well, but as you can see, the thickness of the pant definitely blocks the articulation. And of course, he can move his legs out here as well, but again, you gotta push it up, so you gotta be very careful. You don't want to rip this or anything like that, but it looks like his legs can go out about that far. Boot swivel right there. Ankle can move down very far and up, not so much. And of course, he does have ankle pivot. I know it wouldn't be accurate to the costume, but unfortunately, he doesn't have any weapon storage for his blaster. So, I mean, you got to keep it accurate, but that does kind of suck, especially not having a resealable box to bundle those accessories up with. And the helmet fits on the head pretty well. You got to kind of work it on there to give it a good look, but yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I'll probably display him not with the helmet on, though. That's just more of my preferred way to view Luke. Maybe I'll have him holding his helmet or something, but for the time being, we're just going to set all of this stuff to the side. Okay, so now let's take a look at IG-88 right here, which if you know what the original figure looks like, you know right off the bat, this guy has a pretty significantly different paint job, which I will show you. Of course, one of the great bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back. Love the design of IG-88. Who doesn't like a killer robot? And you've got this wonderful image of IG right there. He looks awesome. Love the Black Series art for this. On the back, a bigger view of the image, which looks great. He's from the Blue Line 2015. And you can see right there, that is his bio. If you'd like to pause it and read it, go ahead. So let's go ahead and get IG-88 out of the package. Okay, so before we take a look at IG-88, of course, we're going to look at his accessories here. And he comes with a standard blaster that is just black plastic. Absolutely no paint apps on it at all, but we've seen this a bunch, so we know exactly what to expect from it. It looks good. The details are nice on it. Could have used a little bit of paint, but whatever. And of course, IG-88 started falling over. And then he comes with the longer blaster rifle as well, which again is just black plastic, no paint on it. Could have used a little bit of paint detail. Luke had a lot of detail, and then IG-88, they really skipped out on the weapons. So again, black plastic, and then his little axe here, which does look very good. I like the little nicks on the actual edge of the weapon, so it looks used. The gold paint looks pretty clean as well, and the silver looks good. So I really dig the design of this axe. Although, once again, right off the bat, here's something I noticed, and I don't know if it's like this for everyone's, but on Justin's IG-88, it's like this, and on my archive IG-88, it's like this. Clearly, that is supposed to be a nub right there to fit on the peg for IG-88, because the weapons plug in via a peg on his arms. And the peg hole is filled in, so you cannot connect this to IG-88. Of course, I could go digging in there my own, but I don't really want to do that, so unfortunately it's just going to have to be a backpack weapon. IG-88 itself, though, does have some really interesting articulation. I know a lot of people hate this figure and hate the original release, and I never really understood that. I think the figure's pretty good, especially for it being a killer robot. Infamously, it was on our top 10 Black Series figures of all time list, and we got a lot of shit for that, so that was kind of funny. But of course, his head rotates all the way around, no questions asked. His shoulders do move out, just like that. And I'm skipping the closer look at the details so I can show you that when I'm comparing it to the other figure. He does have single jointed elbows. that are covered still by that little piece of rubber right there that covers the arm that will deteriorate and will break down. I'll show you on Justin's IG88 when we get to that. You'll see that it's just worn out completely. He does have articulation right here. He can go all the way down, no questions asked, and go pretty far back as well. And he does have a swivel. The legs cannot move out. Obviously, he's a robot, so the articulation is kind of limited, but his leg can kick out a decent amount. And he does have these little soft tubes all over the figure, so when you're stretching out the articulation, especially for the knees, which are double jointed, you'll want to be careful that you don't snap those little pieces of rubber, but you can see the bend at 2 points there. Double jointed knees work as intended, and I do believe this, oh yes, the inside part of the leg is what swivels right there. And then the feet, they robo feet, so they can go up pretty far, they can go down pretty far, no ankle pivot at all, so he is just going to be standing sort of like a robot. This one is actually a little bit hard to pose, but Justin's IG88, for whatever reason, has been always decently able to stand up on its own, at least when I've ever seen it and when I've messed around with it. So here is the original IG88, and you can see right off the bat that the new release is much more golden. The paint apps are much more intense. You can see on the original IG88 it's more of like a gunmetal gray, and his arms are the gold bronze color, and on this IG88 it is all over the top part of the figure. I don't know which one is more accurate off the top of my head, but I think they both look really good. I think the added paint apps to this figure make it desirable to pick up again, and you could always use 2 IG88s because, you know, there's more than one. So let me show you what I was talking about with the elbows on this figure. You can actually see on Justin's, this one is completely missing, and it's just a single jointed elbow, and on this one it's still here, but it is so crusty. You can see it's permanently in place. It looks like it's all cracked. And that, unfortunately, is inevitable. There's absolutely nothing you can do to prevent that from happening to these figures, just because that's how rubber is over time. So it doesn't look horrible without the rubber piece, honestly. It's not even that noticeable unless you really know the character and study the details. You can see right here, the leg on the new one is a little bit more silver than bronze. Taking a closer look, I really don't see much else in the way of different details, but yeah, there's your close look at IG88 and a comparison to the original IG88. And the weapon storage is exactly the same. The weapons all fit in there snug, so at least he can look like he's armed to the gills with all of his awesome weaponry. Both rifles can fit in there pretty well. I like having that one stored in there, and then like him holding this one. And you can see on this weapon, the hole, you can just plug that in for the 2 pegs in the E11 blaster. I believe this is an E11. Justin will yell at me if I get it wrong, but there you go. It fits into that hand, and then you can have him holding this one with the single peg in this hand and have that sword weapon axe on his back, and he just looks like a killer assassin droid, which is awesome. All right, so let's move on to Bosk. Here he is. Another badass bounty hunter. Look at the package there. Again, really nice artwork on the back. He's from the Blue Line 2015. More artwork of Bosk. There is his read up. If you'd like to pause it there, go for it. All right, we'll start with his blaster right here, which is just a thick black plastic, absolutely no paint apps on it, which that's kind of a bummer. Of course, I'm always a fan of having some paint on the guns, but you do have this nice strap right here so he can wear it around his arm, and the buckles have nice little silver details on them, and it does have a little bit of articulation so you can sway it back and forth and fit it on him however you'd like. Okay, so we'll go over his articulation again because I do have an original Bosk, so I will be comparing the details on those. So he does have mouth articulation, which works pretty well. You can get a pretty big open mouth, which looks very nice. He does have this little bit of a gap here, which I noticed is on the original release as well, but it's not really a big deal to me. The mouth closes there. He does have head articulation, so you can move it a little bit back and forth. Not really a whole lot of side to side. His arms can move out decently enough. Single jointed elbows that don't really work as well as you would want them to. I wish we could have gotten new elbows on this guy to give him a little bit more range. And then of course the hand swivels and moves up and down just like you would hope it would. And the arms of course swivel. And he does have a little bit of chest range there. You can see the twist. But of course you've got these soft plastic bits like Luke, so his articulation, you got to be careful so you don't rip those off. Any ab crunch, not really. Can't really move back either way. Not really a whole lot of side to side that will stay in there. He can kick out pretty far. That's not bad. And these are a lot softer. They move up a lot easier to get out of the way of the articulation. The double jointed knee works okay. It's 90 degrees, but of course the legs are so thick that it blocks the articulation, and the legs can move out a decent amount. Get about that much out of it. Thigh cut, which is always nice. Foot cut, boot cut, but obviously lizard foot man. And of course his feet can move down really far and move up pretty far as well. And of course he has that glorious ankle pivot. So again, Archive Boss. This is the original release of Bosk. Let's take a closer look at these guys. You can see right off the bat, I think the eyes on the new Bosk look a little bit more vibrant. They look a little bit more red, and the skin tone looks ever so slightly darker. So going down, looking at the figures again, you can see that they're almost exactly identical. Of course, this is a little bit off-white. Justin's had it for a while, so it's got a little bit of wear, shelf wear to it, which is not a bad thing, and it's something you can't really prevent. You notice this is painted differently. This is more white, whereas this goes down into this gray color. Not really noticing too much else different about the figures themselves. They look pretty identical. I would say Justin's articulation on his is a little locked up. That is Bosk from the Archive wave. We'll put him in the back here. Now, last but not least, the Bobby Boy, Mr. Fett, the hypest Star Wars character ever. And here we go. Let's take a look. So as you can see right off the bat, Boba Fett looks really good. All sorts of wonderful silver details there. You can see the gun also has great detail. There's the picture of Boba Fett. He is from the 2013 Orange line, infamously one of the rarest Black Series figures at the time, which led to a bunch of Chinese knockoffs that are actually really good, which we'll be taking a look at. And there is the bio right there. You can go ahead and pause that, read it there. Let's get him open. Before we take a look at Boba, we'll take a look at his accessories. You can see right here, here is his disintegrator pistol, which has great silver details painted into it. The handle is just brown plastic, but the silver is a nice added touch. We've got his jetpack here, of course, which is just mostly a solid green paint with some nice silver details and a little bit of red detail in there as well. This looks really good. Little decals down by the where the flames come out. I don't know the technical term. And a nice little silver dot right there, and a silver dot right there. It's had one good looking jetpack. You can see how it plugs in there. Then of course his full rifle here, which looks amazing. Probably one of the best weapons in the Black Series in terms of details on it. This nice deep brown paint on the back of the gun. How clean these silver bits of detail are against the handle. That looks amazing. And it is the same on the opposite side as well. The detail goes all around the gun. You can see this beige paint on the handle there. And towards the top, the wonderful silver scrapes at the end of the barrel. And just to give you a comparison, this is prototype Boba Fett's blaster, which comes completely unpainted. So just take a look. You can see the comparison right there of both of the weapons, night and day. And of course we're going to go through Boba Fett's articulation before we take a look at anything else. His head is on a ball joint, so you get all of that wonderful articulation. His little prod is kind of, and you cannot move it. I wish they would have updated this to have it move like the other later figures with the helmet designs, like the clones and stuff. Boba Fett's not a clone. His arms can move out pretty far and swivel all the way around. They don't get in the way. Single jointed elbows that give you a little bit under 90. Wish we could have gotten updated elbows on him as well. That would have been a real nice added touch. He does have an elbow swivel. Of course, be careful. You've got this soft plastic piece right here that does swivel along, so you'll want to be careful of that. He does have a waist swivel as well and can move down a little bit and look back a little bit as well. The legs can kick out okay, but you have to definitely move it around this big thick patch here. Double jointed knees that work really well. I think they work well considering the pants situation there, and his legs can kick out a decent amount. Thigh cut, swivel there, no boot swivel, but the feet do move down and up a decent amount, and of course you've got that ankle pivot. So first let's take a look. Prototype Boba Fett, just to show you, the clean variant of the figure. You can see there it's exactly the same sculpt. There's really nothing that's changed on either of these figures. There's just different things that are highlighted in the detail realm, but I just wanted to give a little comparison because I thought that would be neat. So yeah, there you go. There he is next to Prototype Boba Fett. We're going to compare him to his cousin from the streets of China. Got this guy on eBay for a cool $6. Again, this is the archive wave. This is Chinese bootleg Boba Fett. So let's take a close look at these figures, and you can see that it is pretty crazy how identical the Chinese bootleg is to the actual release of the figure. There's a few minor differences. Like you can see the chest on the Chinese bootleg Boba Fett is a little bit aged. It's looks a little bit shelf worn, but I have had this guy for a minute. I've had him for like a year or two, so that could just be from that. But honestly, take a look at the details here. You can see that even throughout the pants and everything, the details are there on both of the figures, which when I got this figure, I was pleasantly surprised with the bootleg Boba Fett, but still wanted to get a real Boba Fett so I could say that I have the real thing, and maybe I can do something with that one. So let's take a closer look at his details too. You can see the wonderful scrapes. The green paint is super clean. All of the dents, the dings. There's some misses here on the shoulder. You can see where the dent is, but the paint is a little bit off. Let me see how it is on this one. Actually, on the bootleg figure, the paint application is in the right spot. It's right on that dot, and then you can see that that little scrape right there is more towards the bottom of the shoulder pad, and the whole shoulder pad actually. You can see my real one has kind of paint scuffs right there on the logo, and the Chinese one is clean. So far, I don't know. It seems like the Chinese bootleg has better paint apps on it, which is kind of disappointing in a lot of ways. On this side, it's a little bit different as well. You can see the paint details are in different spots, but these are a little bit more pronounced. So, I don't know, kind of like the silver on the silver paint looks a little bit different. And on his back, of course, you've got more silver details on the helmet there, which look really clean, look really good. The buckles as well. And the jetpack just plugs in. Super simple. Just like that. And you can see even the details on the back have carried over with these nice little bits of silver. And the gauntlets and everything. These figures look great. And he also has weapon storage for the blaster, which fits snug right in there, the disintegration pistol. And of course, the same problem still exists where it's kind of notoriously hard to get Boba Fett to hold his rifle properly in his hands without looking like a goofball. This is the best I got on the Chinese bootleg figure, and I think that looks pretty good, so I'll have to do that with him as well, or maybe just put him in a different pose. I'm not sure yet, but overall, all things considered, I'm really happy about Hasbro releasing older Black Series figures because the eBay prices were getting out of control. So I can never fault Hasbro for wanting to re-release these figures, and I think these are all really great Black Series figures. I think they're essential if you're a Black Series collector, especially now that the Bounty Hunters are completely done, with Dengar and Zuckuss coming out at the end of last year. Now, if you missed the early Bounty Hunters like I did, here's your chance to get them. They're just as good as the originals, in my opinion. Some people might not like IG-88's new paint job, but again, you can kind of fudge it. You can say, you know, maybe it's not the IG-88 from the movie. There's plenty of different droids in the Star Wars universe that are IG-88 models. If I had to pick a favorite out of the wave, I would definitely say it is IG-88. Just because I just love the design of the character. The killer robot aspect is something that's always really intrigued me about the figure. But of course, these are all bangers. These are all, like I was saying, essential figures to the Black Series. If you don't have them, you need to get them ASAP. Because who knows how long these will be in print for, and if it's anything like the 40th anniversary debacle, you might want to snatch these up as quick as possible. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the figures. What do you guys think of the re-release of these figures? Do you like the originals better? Do you like the new ones better? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, just give me your general thoughts on the archive wave. Do you like it? Do you think what Hasbro's doing is a good thing or not? Sound off down below. Of course, if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new. We're always talking about action figures. We even have an action figure talk show called Figure It Out, where we discuss NECA and Black Series figures mostly, with a little bit of Marvel Legends sprinkled in every now and again. Of course, I'm Nate from Out of the Basement. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.